Hey guys, my name is Sarah Van Dyke. I tend to go by my middle name, Liz, even though it's not officially on Facebook. And I run Data Pets Training. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a multi-species trainer. I work with both dogs and cats. I do some mild aggression cases. Mostly what I do is behavioral management in the home, cooperative care, and life skills for dogs. And then I do some behavioral management for cats as well as some fun stuff. However, I don't get very many calls for that. So a lot of you guys have been asking for some help with writing curriculums. And so I thought I would go ahead and make a video just to kind of help make sure that everybody gets to see it, even those of you who may not have seen that post, and just kind of get some good foundations with that. So I'm just going to start with some puppy classes here. So this is my life skills welcome letter. I actually address this to the pet just to make it a little bit more fun, and then I introduce what we're going to be doing and how we're going to be doing it, what they need to be prepared for class, and then kind of a little disclaimer here. So I'm very particular about the gear that I allow in classes because I want to make sure that everything that I do is as force-free as possible. And if any exceptions are made, they are made on a case-by-case basis, and I've never had to make an exception, but I've also not been doing group classes for a little bit here. So this is actually for a group class I'm going to start teaching here once I get moved down to my new job in Texas here, where I'll be working as a behavior technician within a fear-free certified clinic. So this is just kind of a brief overview, and then where I start getting into the meat of the content is I start by outlining my course objectives. So this is a puppy life skills class that's actually going to be held in the veterinary hospital, and we discussed at length what we wanted to incorporate. So not just life skills, but also getting some preventative cooperative care skills in there so that puppies that come in and go to class are learning how to be active participants in their care, and we're normalizing those aspects of their lives. So these are my course objectives here. There are several. This is a fairly long course. It's 6 weeks. I guess that's pretty standard. It is 6 weeks long, and these are all the things that we're planning to accomplish in here. So, and then I kind of put my class expectations down in here. My class expectations sound pretty rigorous. However, the whole goal is to make sure that the learning environment is conducive for learning. And so I want to make sure that if someone's going to arrive more than 5 minutes late, that I know that and can be prepared for that. I can be checking in with my other teams during that time to not just have suddenly a surprise. We've gone around, everybody's doing well, and then someone shows up that I didn't know was going to be late, interrupts class. And then I also don't want them arriving more than about 10 minutes early, just because I don't want them in that flood of people leaving, if at all possible. And I don't want them and their puppy to be sitting outside of class just waiting, and then puppy gets frustrated and all of these things. I do expect everybody to attend all of their classes, even if they, even if they have to do a makeup class. I don't mind that at all. I try to get them in with a class that's with doing the same stuff that they missed so that they still get that group setting. But I'm not going to ask someone in the course that didn't do all the lessons and they're missing some of those skills, because everything in this course is so important. And then homework, my expectations for homework is that they do it, which we all know as trainers that sometimes client compliance can be very challenging with this. So this is really more just tips on how to work things into their routine, and then recommendations for participation of people that are in the home, so that it's not just one person that gets stuck working with the dog. I come across that actually quite frequently where, well, I'm the only one that works with the dog. I find that if I have a black and white blurb about, hey, participation is recommended by the person that you hired, it goes a lot further, and there's fewer of those conversations about you guys need to be working with this dog for these reasons. So that's my welcome letter. The actual welcome letter itself is pretty short, and then this just kind of sets them up for, okay, these are the things that we're going to be learning, and this is what I need to expect when I get to class. So then this is the actual, so then I also send some starter exercises. I want them actually working on eye contact, targeting, and having a good feel for how to mark those successes before they even get to class, because puppies get so excited that they see the other puppy, they get very frustrated or excited, and then they're pulling on the leash and they're bouncing and they're barking. And if they've already got some of these skills under their belt that are very, very easy, then it gives them better management right away and sets them up for success. They don't feel so overwhelmed, and we're not relying on keeping the dogs occupied while we go around and do introductions and those sorts of things. We can do something that's very easy for the handler to be able to pay attention to what's going on in the group and also manage their puppy. And then with these, they will be getting videos to show them how to introduce the marker and how to do the eye contact and targeting. And these are a little bit longer blurbs, but I want to make sure that I'm including all the pertinent information without being too wordy. So targeting, I could go on forever about how important targeting is and all the ways that you can use it. But what I want to convey here is that it's a valuable skill. We're going to be using it as our foundation for recall and how to do it here. And that we're going to be putting it on cue in the first day of class. And then how this also is helpful in different situations. So when they're out socializing and your puppy seems uncomfortable, giving them that target, okay, this is something that I know, I can move away from this thing, it's okay, or I can move parallel to this thing and things are not scary, and kind of working them through that a little bit at their pace without overwhelming them, using something that they're confident in, give them that out. So that's very, very helpful. And then just some things that they can do if they don't want to use their hand for forever, just so that they know that this is not just this rigorous, okay, they only touch my hand thing. And then eye contact, this is a much shorter blurb because eye contact is a shorter skill to talk about. And then just kind of introducing the marker here. So if you notice that I don't have anything that's superfluous in here, I'm not throwing a ton of extra information, I'm just introducing clicker training, a common name for us using a marker. Those of us that do clicker training, we know that we actually tend to use a clicker for clicker training, but for the purpose of those who don't want to necessarily do clicker training and how it's used in layman's terms, from what I've heard, this is kind of what I've developed as my definition for it for classes. So this is kind of how it works, why clickers are used, that they don't have to use a clicker, how they can use an alternative to a clicker, and reasons that clickers may not work well for them. And then, okay, so we've learned our marker and reinforcer we've learned what those are. Now we got to make the association and how to do that. And then just a reminder, just to let them know they've been successful. It's not to get their attention. It's not for anything else. It's only to let them know that they've been successful. And that way they don't muddy that there. And if they do, we can always fix it, but I want to set them up for the best chances of success. So that's why I include this blurb. Those are my starter exercises. And I included technical definitions just because those are things that sometimes I will say in class, mark that behavior out of habit. And I don't want them to be confused by what I'm saying, because sometimes I stay a little too technical when I shouldn't. So those are my starter exercises here. So this is my actual course here. When I look at developing a course, I'm not starting with how many weeks do I want it to be. I'm looking at what skills do I need to incorporate in this course for the best chances of success, and how do I need them to flow. So in lesson 1, we're going to do introductions and goals. Of course, I'm going to go around, I'm going to ask people what their name is, their puppy's name, breed, age, and what their goal is for the class. Now, we did this video on December 13th, I want to say, where it was not like, what do you want to fix? but I forget what the phrase was, but it was so much better. And so what do you want to accomplish in this class rather than setting them up for that negative mentality? We're going to sit and we're going to start kind of incorporating some polite greetings at the dog's pace. We're going to start with walking. So I start leash training basically right away. And I do that because it's one of the top things that people ask about. When are we going to learn to walk? When is he going to stop pulling? When do we get to walk on a loose lead? And then enrichment. Enrichment's so important. I want pet parents doing that right away. I want them to understand that it doesn't have to be hard. It's not something that I'm just going to drop on them in the middle of class doing all this stuff and now here's some more to add. It's just little things that you can do throughout the day. And then because this is going to be held in a veterinary hospital, we opted to include a lot of cooperative care. So not only are we going to be learning the safety skill of Leave It, but we're also going to be introducing the bucket game by Chirag Patel. And he does get credited for that in this course for sure. And then we're going to be doing some handling skills, getting them prepared for what it's like to be handled. And we're going to get them prepared for getting in and out of the car and going for car rides. We're going to continue some practice with polite greetings, and we're going to do our drop it and skill with take it. We're going to incorporate wait and release, so some impulse control. And I find that starting impulse control when they're really small like that is more conducive to success than when we wait to implement it later. And we're going to start on our recall, so looping back to that targeting skill and more handling skills. And so when I went through and I broke down, okay, these are the things that I need to incorporate. I then thought, how am I going to break them down so that they flow well in a course and they lead into each other? Because these are not just, okay, I'm going to throw this here, and I'm going to throw this here, and I'm going to throw this here. It's what's going to make the most sense. What's going to help these puppies thrive. So you can see it's a very comprehensive course. And then in my homework down here, I'm trying to keep it very short and very to the point. So talking about, we're not going to add a verbal cue in this yet. We want them to understand the visual cue. We want them to be consistent before we add that on. It needs to be a finished behavior before we add the cue in order to prevent confusion. And then how to add a verbal cue. It's very, very brief. And when I do this, I know some people have a hard time breaking down how they train things. So what I do is I sit and I go, okay, if I'm going to add a cue, what are the components that I need to do that? Well, I need to have a dog that consistently performs on the visual cue. How am I going to add it? I'm going to add my verbal cue before I give my visual cue. And then what that looks like from the outside. So I actually do quite a bit of videotaping of myself in my sessions and reviewing that video to break down the timestamps. It helps not only with my timing, but it helps me catch things that I missed. It helps me to see my patterns, my body language, what the pet's body language is if I was missing components of that. It's very, very valuable. And doing that has really given a big boost for my ability to write curriculum. And then just kind of continuing on, we're going to repeat this until we're performing that skill when the verbal cue is given rather than waiting for that visual cue, and that still practice them separately. That reminder to reward each time so that we don't end up in an accidental extinction situation. Walking is a little bit longer. So walking is about 3 paragraphs here. I try to keep things from being quite that long. However, this is going to be something that I need them to have more information on, because in a group class, I'm not going to their home like I do now. I'm not able to break this down into, okay, so you started walking in the home this week, and at the end of the week you put on gear. Now this week we're going to move it outside. I'm not there to hold their hand that way. I need them to have more information up front to refer back to, so that they can go through these different stages, and we can practice that skill when they come into the class later. So there are exercises worked in for moving around the hospital. This particular course is going to start with the first 5 minutes of class. It's going to be them going to different areas of the hospital, so they're practicing their leash skills, and then reinforcing them for sniffing around and exploring, getting to know the layout of the hospital, all the different scents, and then also making sure that they're becoming comfortable. So we're asking for simple things: targeting, sit, eye contact in exam rooms, in the treatment area, in the lobby, and getting up on the scale, and all of those things, so that they're very familiar with the setting. So they are going to be practicing their leash manners in subsequent classes for this course. And then station training. Again, this is one that they need more information on because it can't be there to hold their hand for it. So week 1 has my longest blurbs for those things. So station training, we're giving them tools to be able to consent to care with this, and how that works, and what they need to be looking for. So these guys are going to get a handout on body language, and they need to be, I want them to be reminded that they need to be monitoring for that. They need to make sure their pet is comfortable. They need to make sure they're working at their own pace, because what we don't want is to cause or increase or perpetuate fear, anxiety, and stress responses when it comes to routine care. And then enrichment. So what enrichment is and why it's this early, different types of enrichment. I have a nice image here of different types of tongs so that they can see what the different colors are. And then we get into Leave It. And the bucket game actually has a separate handout. Handling skills is a little bit more lengthy because we're doing multiple things. Vehicle skills. These are just short, sweet, and to the point as much as possible. Now, when I'm looking at doing a trainer manual, this is a trainer manual for a Star Puppy, an AKC Star Puppy class. So it's not only the Star Puppy skills. There are some other things in there to kind of stretch it out, because AKC Star Puppy requires 6 weeks of attendance in order for the puppy to have any sort of qualification to take the test. So this is one of the courses that I'm working on for another trainer. So he likes to incorporate kennel training and long-term confinement area. That's what that stands for. Great. He wants to include playtime. Fantastic. And one of the things that we talked about is practicing redirection with that, and then a settling exercise, so that they get a few minutes of play, but they also get it structured so that they're not just going into hyperdrive and becoming maniacs. And they're also playing at appropriate paces, because puppies shouldn't be playing for just 20 minutes straight. They need breaks. And then an enrichment discussion to kind of help with that at home. A little bit of cooperative care in here to round out what is necessary for AKC Star requirements. I threw in 101 things to do with a box game just because it's a fun game for them to do and work with, and it helps with timing and paying attention to more subtle things and encouraging exploration and problem solving, but it's not the puppies focusing on other puppies the whole time. And then they do a settle exercise at the end of every class while they go over, does anybody have any questions? Okay, these are the things that we're working on this week. Handler swap is working on, some supervised separation type stuff, and just kind of going through different ways that we're going to be preparing not only for the Star Puppy test, but also for these puppies later in life to be able to take their Canine Good Citizen test, because AKC Star Puppy is intended to lead into Canine Good Citizen. This is a trainer manual. I have, what the topic is and the approximate time frame for it. Ideally, this would take about 5 minutes, but some people are chatty, so I gave a buffer. And then, as they're entering and what I want the instructor doing, so instructing them to them, eye contact and marking and rewarding for it, or redirecting and then giving them the reinforcement for redirecting away from the other puppies. Again, getting that management on board. And then, just kind of a basic introduce yourself. And I put this in here because some people are not great at introducing themselves. So this way they have kind of a script. And if they're great at introducing themselves to groups, they're an old pro at this, then they can do whatever they want. And then some kind of basic information to include so that they're not like, hi, I'm so-and-so, I'm your instructor. Next. And then how to structure the introduction. So it seems like it's kind of belittling or patronizing, but this is so that anybody could literally come in, a brand new instructor, they've never taught classes before, and they can look and go, okay, this is how I should do this. And then the targeting skill. So it should take 10 minutes, a little blurb about how to introduce it, how to demo it, and then, moving around the room and checking in on the teams, and then demo it as you're building some criteria there so they can, and then have them practice this so they can get a feel for that. And then how to end that topic. And the next topic, same thing. A little bit of a potty break here, and then how to do the play with redirection, their settle exercises, and then their enrichment discussion here. And then questions at the end. So the goal is to keep it brief, but still informative. And some of it comes down to the vernacular that we choose and how we're wording things. So I'm more than happy to continue helping people with that aspect if they would like, but I thought this would give a nice overview of my kind of baseline. And this is similar to how I would do a curriculum for, let's say, a dog reactive dog. So I would go in and I would talk with the client. I've got all my history before I go in. And then I would go in and talk with the client, check in, see how are they feeling about things? Can they demonstrate to me how they're currently handling the situation? That way, not only do I have it in writing, but I can visualize it. Work on some tweaking things. Talk about goals. What are our goals and how can we keep them realistic? And then when I get back, I'm breaking things down into, okay, to achieve these realistic goals, we need to do these things. It will likely take approximately this amount of time if I break it down into these steps. Are these steps reasonable to include with each other? No, we need time to practice. This should go into the next week or maybe 2 weeks out. And it's kind of going from there. So having those objectives is really key for helping to structure your curriculum, whether it's a custom curriculum for reactive dog or it's for a puppy class or a group class for adults. It doesn't really matter. Having those objectives is really important. And then just kind of piecing things out and breaking them down. Those videos are so helpful.
Those videos are so helpful to be able to visualize that, and do timestamps if you guys can. Just look at it and go, okay, at minute 5, I did this, and this was the result. And, look at your ABCs, your antecedents, your behaviors, your consequences. And that really helps to be able to identify those breakdowns, where you're struggling. How can you break it down further? And that way you have that flexibility for your students. So, to recap, what we want to do is we want to define our course objectives. What do we want to accomplish with this? Our goals. And then break down how we want to achieve those goals. And then establish our flow. So when we look at breaking down how to achieve those goals, this is not just our technique, but also our individual steps. As Hannah Brannigan likes to say, Lego blocks, not cinder blocks. So just take a look at those things. And again, if you're still having struggles, feel free to contact me. I'm more than happy to help work through, because sometimes just talking through it is so helpful too. And then I just want to say I'm so grateful for this entire group. I have really enjoyed seeing all of these trainers really come together for the learning experience and work, not just as colleagues, but also to support each other in those friendships. So thanks again so much, guys. I hope this was really helpful for you guys. And if you have, again, any questions, feel free to contact me. I had several people contact me for help with this, so I was hoping that this would help to kind of give those baseline breakdowns, because I unfortunately can't get to everybody right away. So I just kind of wanted to try to eliminate that wait period for some of you guys that are struggling with more of the basic stuff. And then we can certainly work on some more of the advanced stuff, the vernacular and all of that, to kind of help make sure that everything is well defined and well laid out for you guys and your clients. Thanks again so much, and everybody have a great rest of their day.